What's up guys, my name is Arkaviun and today I'm gonna do my best to help you understand Sage a little bit better. Sage can be a very intimidating healing when you first start playing it. You have a lot of buttons on the OGCD, so you're going to be weaving a lot, making Sage one of the faster, if not the fastest healer we currently have. In some situations, this might put you in a state of panic when you start healing. Start freaking out because you don't know what ability does what, or you just go in full shutdown mode so you don't want to do any kind of healing and you just let everybody die. So my job today is to do my best to help you understand Sage's abilities and its playstyle a little better so you can jump into those dungeons, trials, and raids and impress everybody by showing them you know exactly what you're doing. Alright, so let's begin with Kardia. Kardia is going to be the very first ability you use in every group that you join. You're usually going to want to put the Kardia on the main tank because the healing received from your damaging abilities that would heal the Kardia target is not strong enough to constantly bounce between target and target to try and heal them through your damage. So the best thing to do would just be to keep Kardia on the main tank rather than bouncing Kardia from target to target. Soteria will add a 50% increase in your healing onto your current Kardia unaffected target, which means if you have Kardia on your main tank and you pop Soteria, every time you do damage with your Doses, Dyscrasia, Toxicon, or Phlegma, the healing that your tank is going to be receiving from your Kardia effect will be increased by 50%. Okay, so let's talk about the damage abilities. Toxicon, Phlegma, Doses, and Dyscrasia all heal the target that currently has your Kardia effect with a 170 cure potency heal every time you deal damage. Doses is your normal single target damaging ability. When you pop Eucrasia, it turns Doses into Eucrasian Doses, which turns Doses into a damage over time ability. Toxicon is a strong AoE ability, however, it requires an Adder Sting cost. The way you generate Adder Stings is by having your Eucrasian Diagnosis bubble break. It does not work with Eucrasian Prognosis. So every time your Eucrasian Diagnosis bubble breaks, you generate one charge of Adder Sting. Toxicon is a very strong AoE ability. It has a 25-yard range with a 5-yard radius, and it hits the first target with a 330 potency, followed by 50% less damage on all targets around the main enemy. Toxicon will be used mainly in an AoE situation when you have multiple mobs. It won't be used that much in a raid or trial fight. Unless, of course, you need to reposition yourself on the map. Toxicon would allow you to run and deal instant damage from a range without having to drop your DPS. Dyscrasia is your normal AoE ability, which is not ranged, so you have to stack onto the targets when you're going to be doing damage. And Phlegma is your strongest AoE hitting ability. It hits the first target for 510 potency, followed by everything else 50% less damage. It has 2 charges with a 45-second charge time, and it only costs 400 mana. You want to try to keep using this as often as possible to maintain the best damage you can deal. Alright, let's talk about the healing abilities. Diagnosis and Prognosis without Eucrasia is just your normal single target and AoE healing abilities. Diagnosis is a 450 single target cure potency ability which costs 400 mana, and Prognosis is your AoE equivalent, but it only has 300 potency and it costs 800 mana. Using Eucrasia would transform both of these into its bubble form. Eucrasian Prognosis only has a cure potency of 100, but it erects a bubble on everybody in the party with a potency of 320%. Very powerful bubble for the entire party, and it's an instant cast. Eucrasian Diagnosis has a cure potency of 300 and applies a bubble of 180%, which is a very, very powerful bubble, especially with it being instant cast. If someone in your party has Eucrasian Prognosis, which is the AoE bubble, or the single target in your party has Eucrasian Diagnosis, Hepsis will remove that bubble and give that target a chunky heal. If it was the Ukrainian Prognosis bubble, it will remove the bubble and heal that person for 350 potency. Now if it's Ukrainian Diagnosis, it will remove that bubble and heal that target for 450 potency. Pepsis is a very strong ability and it's free of cost. It costs no mana and it only has a 30-second recast time. So before we continue, let's talk real quick about the Sage job gauge. Every 20 seconds, Sages will gain a Adder's Gall, which is these 3 blue crystals you see on the top of your gauge. The middle bar is connected to the Adder's Gall gauge. Every time that bar fills up, you gain a charge of Adder's Gall. Now beneath the bar are 3 purple diamonds and you can gain. These purple diamonds are only used on one ability, which is called Toxicon. And Toxicon is an AoE damaging ability that hits the first target for 330 potency and everything else around it for 50% less damage. Now as for the Adder's Gall gauge, these blue crystals are used to cast Caracol, Toracol, Jewelcol, and Isocol. I apologize if I'm butchering these names. I'm assuming many of us don't quite understand how to properly pronounce some of these words, but that's fine, right? You understand what I'm trying to say, right? Each of these abilities restores 7% of your maximum mana, which is 700 mana. Caracol is one of the abilities where you're going to have to try and maintain as often as possible. It gives the entire party a 10% damage reduction, and at level 78, it adds a regen effect, which will regenerate health to everybody affected by the Caracol ability with a cure potency of 100. Very nice ability to have. Terracol is your strongest cure potency heal. So I usually save this heal for when the tank takes a huge hit and the tank fell below 50%. You're going to be spending a lot of your Adder's Gall on Jewelcol. Jewelcol is only a 600 potency cure heal, a little bit less than Terracol, but you're able to spam this just so long as you have an Adder's Gall ready to be used. And next we have Ixocol. Ixocol is your strongest AoE heal, excluding your Numa ability, but we'll get into Numa a little later. Ixocol is a 30-second recast timer with a 400 cure potency, costs 1 Adder's Gall, and of course it restores 7% of your mana. Physis is your AoE healing over time ability, and it increases the healing received on that target by 10%. Also a very nice ability to have. So level 90 we have Numa. It is a 2-minute cooldown, 700 MP cost with a 25-yard range and radius, but you must have a target to use Numa. Just keep in mind that when you use Numa, it's going to be a directional attack. So when you first use it, you'll notice the beam of light. That beam of light will hit the first target for 330 potency, and it will hit every other enemy caught in the beam for 40% less damage. It's a very strong damaging ability, but that's not the main reason you're going to use it for. Numa has an additional effect. When you cast Numa, you heal everybody around you from a 25-yard radius for 600 potency. Very, very powerful heal. Holos is another AoE healing ability with 300 cure potency with a 2-minute cooldown, but it also adds a 10% damage mitigation to everybody in the party that gets hit with your Holos. And then we have Zoe. Zoe currently doesn't work the way that it says that it works. Currently, as of patch 6.0, Zoe says it increases healing magic potency of your next healing spell by 50%. I've done a lot of testing, and it turns out Zoe does not work with any other healing ability other than Prognosis and Diagnosis. And of course, Ukrainian Prognosis and Ukrainian Diagnosis. But it does not work on any other healing ability. So keep that in mind, that when you use Zoe, it's only going to be triggered when you cast Diagnosis and Prognosis, which will increase the healing potency of that ability by 50%. At level 86, you're going to get Krasis. Krasis increases the HP recovery via healing actions for party members or yourself by 20%, and it's a 60-second cooldown, and it lasts for 10 seconds. And next we have the 2 strongest abilities, I would say, in the Sage's toolkit. We have Haima and Panhaima. Haima grants a party member with 5 stacks of Hymatanon. Each stack is a bubble equivalent to a 300 potency heal. Every time one of these bubbles break, it will reapply another bubble immediately, with a total of 5 stacks. Panheima is exactly like Haima, except it's for the entire party. But of course, it's going to have a little bit less healing potency. Panheima will have a healing potency of 200 for everybody in the party with the same 5 stacks. And same thing, every time one of those bubbles break, it will replace that bubble immediately with another bubble for 200 cured potency. Now for Panheima or Haima, if you get in a situation where all your bubbles did not break, it will heal the single Haima target for 150 per remaining stack of Hymatanon, and it would heal the Panheima targets in your party for 100 cure potency heal for every remaining stack of Panheimaton. Again, I really apologize if I'm butchering some of these names. Listen, I'm trying my best. Okay. And we have Rizomata. Rizomata is a 90-second cooldown ability which grants only 1 stack of Adder's Gall. Now, I don't know if it's just me. I feel like Rizomata is a very long cooldown for the amount of Adder's Gall that it gives you, but maybe this was intended. But either way, you want to make sure you maintain Rizomata on cooldown so you have that extra stack of Adder's Gall as often as possible. And my own personal favorite ability, Icarus. This ability allows you to rush through a targeted enemy or party member up to 25 yards away. This is so fun to use. I use this ability so much. It allows me to sit in AoE right before it explodes and then leap to another person out of the AoE, allowing me to maintain damage or finish my healing without having to worry about avoiding a mechanic.
And that's it for the guide. Guys, I hope this video was helpful. If it was, consider hitting that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you get notified when I post future content. With all that said, guys, I will catch you all next time on the flip side. Peace.